Thanks for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. It's always great to have former Assemblyman Dov Hikind with us. He's head of Americans Against Anti-Semitism. He's putting up billboards in Pennsylvania supporting Donald Trump, and he's certainly not afraid to speak his mind on issues. In fact, we're calling this Let My People Vote. Welcome back.
Pleasure, always.
So we need to vote, and we're trying to mobilize, and I think it's important. And whether you vote Democratic or Republican, first thing is we have to have everybody going out to vote. Too many people don't do what they should be doing. Now with all this open voting, and it's more than one day, there's no excuse for people not to vote.
Yeah, there really is no excuse. These are extraordinary times for the Jewish people, for the United States of America. And I have never said that before in my life, that this is probably one of the most important elections in our lifetime. So every single person, it is critical that you go out to vote. As you pointed out, whatever way you're going to vote, ultimately, it's important to show the Jewish community is voting, period. Obviously, I prefer that you vote for Republicans, period. My attitude is that unless you know a Democrat personally who is so committed and has been so amazing in being there for the community and for the Jewish people, then vote for the Democrat. But I don't think there are too many of those, to be quite honest with you.
Well, by the way, you're a former Democratic assemblyman, and all the Orthodox elected officials, with the exception of Ari Brown, who's a Republican assemblyman, everybody else, Simcha Chastin, Democrat, Kalman Yeager, Democrat, Simcha Felder, Democrat. So you have the Orthodox community, for the most part, with the exception of Ari Brown, is the Democrats.
Yeah, look, I was a Democrat for all the 36 years. But as you know, during those 36 years, I probably supported more Republicans over 36 years when I felt that they were better for the Jewish people, for Israel. You remember the days from Rudy Giuliani to Pataki to D'Amato and others. It was not an easy thing to do. In politics, if you're part of the Democratic coalition and you endorse a Republican, that's the worst sin you could commit. And I am proud of all the sins I committed on that level. But nobody else does that. It's rare. Tell me one of these Democrats that you mentioned and others who don't any of them think that we need a change, that we need Trump now in November? But none of them have supported Trump. Now, some of them, I'm sure, are telling people, yeah, I'm supporting Trump. I just can't do it publicly. But
well, they
you know
can't,
what?
Because they're Democrats. They would be pariah in the Democratic Party.
Zev, I did it. I'm alive. I survived. I brought money into my community. It's okay. It's, you got to be proud. You got to be strong. We're talking about that the ADL just released a report with close to 9,000 incidents of Jew hatred. Can I repeat that? Almost 9,000 assaults, destruction of property. And by the way, there's more than that. Zev, I have a young man in my shul, 21 years old. I just found this out. The father came over to me right here in Woodmere, and he told me what happened to his son. His son came out of Penn Central, and he was suddenly followed and yelled at. Hitler didn't finish the job, a lot of other anti-Semitic things. This kid was terrified. The guy followed him. I said, hey, there are hundreds of people around. Did anybody say anything or do anything? He said, nobody said anything. Everybody was videoing it. And he is afraid to go public. I begged him. I said, let's go to the police. Let them, the numbers are important. But more people do not report incidents of anti-Semitism than actually report. So these are crazy times, and we have to step to the plate and do the right thing. For someone to say to me, I'm supporting this candidate because they're a Democrat, because the other candidate, the Republican, won't bring money into the district. First of all, that's not true. Okay, that's not true. But second of all, is that what it is all about? Does Hashem play any role? Is that out of the picture? It doesn't count? I mean, for God's sake, here's an interesting story. I just saw it a moment ago, right before coming on the show. The leader of the Democratic Party, her name is Nikki Fried. This is in one of the papers. Florida Dems chair says many Jews started to question the Democratic Party. What is the best way to change things? And I'm not telling everyone become a Republican, but the best way to send the message to the Democratic Party that the way you are doing things is unacceptable is not to vote for them. They should have a major defeat on every single level, and then we can change things. Then they can change their ways. This is the head of the Democratic Party in Florida admitting the Jews are abandoning the Democratic Party.
But on the local level, and here how it works, and you have in the Hasidic community in those areas where they will vote locally for Democrats, but on the national level, they'll vote for a Republican.
I think a lot of people, Zev, we saw it in the past. Ultimately, there's pressure from the leadership, but I think the average person gets it. They understand. They can vote for whoever they want to. They don't have to share it with the principal of the school or some local guy who's telling them what's best for the Jewish community. God, I've heard that all my life, what's best for the Jewish community. And Zev, we've never been in such trouble as we are today with all, we're doing what's best for the Jewish community. The Democratic Party is a danger to the Jewish community. I don't say that as a political person. I'm saying that because that's the reality.
Well, the Satmar Rebbe of Monroe, Rav Aaron Teitelbaum, said that voting for Kamala Harris is a sakana, danger. People should vote for Trump. I was surprised, but
that was a wonderful moment. That was a wonderful moment. And it just goes to show you that Satmar with Zionism and all that. But ultimately, what does it mean that Harris is a problem? It means the policies of this administration. It means the anti-Semitism that the Democratic Party has not addressed. They talk about anti-Semitism. The second gentleman, Emhoff, talks about anti-Semitism. But we know what's going on college campuses.
You look at his own household. His daughters support, the Hamas.
Absolutely. So what do you expect? And they talk, but I want someone to tell me, what has the Democratic Party, starting with the White House, actually done to change the equation? Nothing. That is just the fact of life.
Did you see that vice presidential candidate Tim Walz was with AOC and said she should be speaker? Did you see that? I didn't hear much people react to that.
Yeah. Look, there's so much going on. It's insane, right? I mean, it really is insane. It's about politics. It's about getting the progressives and the leftists of the Democratic Party to come out for Harris. But the fact, look, he may actually mean it. He may think it's a good thing. It'll be good for the party. It may be good for the party, Zev. It's not good for Jews
or America.
Good for America.
America.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of that, New York, people are looking at the top of the ticket, but New York State, New York City has some very important issues and races. One of them is the proposition, which I know the Agudas come out against, and a lot of local leadership come out against because it has a great sounding name and protecting women's reproductive rights. But if you read the fine print, there's a lot of stuff in there that's making a lot of people upset if it should pass.
Yeah. Look, most people are not focusing on propositions, but those propositions can cause havoc in our community. The idea that we should permit people who are not citizens to vote, is that insane? Is that insane? Is that crazy? But most people are not aware, of the actual details of some of these propositions. Most communist countries after World War II, all of them, many of them, had the word democratic in their name. The last thing they were democratic countries, but the German Democratic Republic, and on and on and on. So we got to be very, very careful. It's important. This is, Zev, about our future. New York as it is, especially New York City, the 5 boroughs, I think we're in a lot of trouble. I think the community's in a lot of trouble in terms of the future. The legislature, both the city council and also the state legislature, I got to tell you, it has dramatically changed since a couple of years ago when I was there. When I left Albany, the Senate was still controlled by Republicans. So all the nonsense that the Democrats did in the Assembly, the crazy bills that were introduced, never went too far because the Senate under the Republicans just killed it. It never got voted on. But that has all changed. And for people to advocate, vote Democrat for this particular person, send a message to the leadership in New York on every single level by going straight down the line voting for Republicans.
But the opposite argument is if you have a Democrat that's pro-Israel and that's also middle of the road, we have to support those kinds of Democrats.
No, I agree. If there's a particular person who has gone beyond, we know the difference between someone who says, someone who just says, I'm for Israel. I support Israel's existence. I support Israel's security. That's what Harris says. That's what they all say. That's not enough anymore. We need the details. Has that person spoken out against the radicals in the Democratic Party?
Richie Torres is a great example of that.
Well, of course. I would take Richie Torres. How about Fetterman from Pennsylvania? That's what I mean about, it's not about when people say to me, oh, I'm so happy you became a Republican. Don't get too excited because it's not about being a Republican. Right now, I think the Republican Party, we have more friends there than anywhere else, but it's not about being a Republican alone because you pointed out, one of the most outspoken people in the United States Congress is a gay member of the House of Representatives, Richie Torres. He is one of the most effective people. And then you also have Fetterman, who is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And he's a Democrat. Would you support him if you were in his district and his state? Of course you would. Of course you would. We're not stupid. We're not blind. We're not, Donald Trump is not the Mashiach. We elect Donald Trump, it's all going to be perfect. It's not. I'm guaranteeing that right now. But you know what? Between the two that we have, it is black and white. There is no choice but to vote for Donald Trump. And I wish that he would stop saying some of the things he says that are undermining his campaign.
Absolutely. He sometimes says things which just he's doing well and all of a sudden makes a sentence, comes out with a comment that throws everything,
right, exactly.
Into chaos.
Exactly.
By the way, that I get the impression that New York City Mayor Eric Adams is going to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, I have little doubt about that. And I hope that there are a lot of people out there who are not willing to be public and talk about it. There's always a hidden vote on Trump. Nice, respectable people, who cannot say they're voting for Donald Trump because their neighbors, people at work, may start yelling and screaming at them. But I think there are a lot of people out there and who are going to vote for Donald Trump because they get it. They don't like what's going on the borders, open borders. Anybody can come from anywhere. People who have committed serious crimes getting into our country. Who pays the price ultimately? Innocent civilians in America. Crime. I mean, what's going on in this country in terms of crime, especially major cities, is insane. And if you want it to continue and to go further downhill, very simple, just vote for Democrats.
Former Democratic Assemblyman Dov Hikind, head of America. New group is called Americans Against Anti-Semitism. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to having you back. And let my people, everybody should be voting. Yeah, tell your friends, your kids, your neighbors, vote, vote, vote.
Absolutely. Vote, 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 and vote Republican.
Thank you, Dov, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Zev.
Thank you for tuning in to
Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Terrific. Great job as always.
Well, by the way, this story that I told you about, I didn't realize even, is a